Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. I'm back from the illness and ready to crank on reviewing some cool comics and some maybe not cool comics. I don't know. It'll be up to you to decide. Actually, I guess I can decide it because I'm reviewing it. But this week we're going to be doing Anne Rice's The Vampire Lestat. It says Anne Rice's, but it's I guess there's I don't know how much it changes in the interpretation. But I guess when you go to a movie that's an adaptation of a book, you like if they say Stephen King's It and stuff like that. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you the art that helps to sponsor these shows, and it's random access, which I produce on a monthly basis for my patrons. Go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, and I do a 12-page full size, full color comic every month. This is random access 1 and 2, and these are from the 90s. I didn't restart doing random access until a couple years ago, so they've evolved since then. But you can also go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and you can find random access and Mutandis and lots of the other things that I've done over the years. Yep, or you could just check me out on Instagram at alexturbin0441. But let's get into the Vampire Lestat. It's another painted comic by Innovation. Innovation is one of my favorite publishers because they do specifically color painted comics mostly. I don't know if they've done any non painted. Anyway, this is Anne Rice's The Vampire Lestat, like I said, and it's from 1990. I got it mainly for the cover. The cover is by John Bolton, and I really love his stuff. He's a beautiful illustrator. I love almost everything he does. Just the color work and the motion that he puts into his comics and the realism. He's got a certain sense of realism, almost like Alex Ross, where even though they look realistic, they really kind of don't look realistic. But anyway, I love his stuff. So this is interpreted by Faye Pirozich. I hope Pirozich. I hope you excuse my butchering of the names of the creators of the comic. But the first 16 pages or the first 15 pages are penciled by Joseph Linnaeus Phillips, and the 16 through 32 is by Derek Gross. And Derek Gross also paints all of it, so that gives it a nice continuity as far as the artwork goes. I remember when I first picked this up, I was very intrigued about it. The other Anne Rice books had been out, something about witches and mummies and stuff, and I had never read anything. I think I did go back and either read this or The Interview with the Vampire, but I really don't remember anything about it. And even the movies, I've seen those, and I really don't remember much about that. I had a friend that just referred to this whole series as gay vampires, which is it's true. But anyway, the storyline goes, it's the vampire Lestat, and he's underground. He apparently went through some battle and decided to, instead of living his life or whatever as a regular vampire does, he decided to bury himself. Now, most places have been dug up, so it's a miracle that he wasn't discovered by somebody digging up some pipes or something. But he's fairly far underground, which is also unusual because different layers of earth, like once you get to the clay is super crazy hard. So I don't know. It doesn't really show the clay. I know this is stupid to talk about, but he's buried underground, maybe 20 feet or 30 feet, and there's like rocks and clay and stuff. So I don't know. It it's a nice little fantasy thing to go with the story, but it's a little unbelievable, but for that part, which I guess maybe it's just me being stupid and taking things a little too literal in a vampire comic book. So anyway, it talks about how he's listening in on the ongoings of society as he's underground. I think he has some sort of psychic abilities where he can read minds and stuff like that. So that's kind of unusual. The first page is like showing time passing, which I really kind of think this is not done particularly well. I know it's brown and then black and white and then color, but I wish the color was more vibrant, and maybe I don't know, maybe the black and white was a little bit more um, I don't know, steeped in the black and white, I guess. But anyway, it talks about him digging himself up through the earth. This is the one thing I remember from the comic from reading it when I first got it at my LCS was him digging himself up through the earth and being intrigued, because the reason he came up is because he hears and senses this rock band, and he wants to become part of the rock band, which is very 90s-ish, I guess. So he's digging himself up through the earth, and he's very weak because he's been underground for hundreds of years. But I guess he catches like bugs and worms and stuff and eats them, so he slowly gets better. One of the few things in this is that there's not a lot of dialogue. It's all about him kind of talking to the audience, talking to the reader, and that's perfectly good. But I kind of really like a transition from the narrator talking to the reader and having it go into excuse me, remnants of my sickness, going into an actual dialogue and into the story. This is where he talks about eating rats and stuff, and then he kills a cat, and then it goes into a very specific way he kills a human, but the human is a killer, and I guess that's the only way that he can justify himself for killing a human being, is that he's killing a killer. So it's really, I don't know if I want to say that this is because, no, I'm not going to say that because that would be quite sexist, but to think that a vampire isn't going to just kill somebody and that they're going to wait for somebody to have done a bad thing is a little I don't know, a little unbelievable. He's a vampire. He should just be killing anybody. In my opinion, I guess that's just my opinion. So then it shows. Here's a spread page of just him showing that he's up above ground, and so then it shows him going back to access his money that he's stashed away, I guess, before he went underground, and he's learning about the modern culture and stuff like that, and watching TV and talking to people, and he's very enamored with rock stars and stuff like that. He's living the high life, living with rich people and stuff like that. And finally, he gets up the nerve to go back to that first rock band that he was talking about, Satan's something. Satan something anyway. And he wants to be their singer. So I think this is showing that he's using mind control. That's kind of not very well done. But then he shows them that he can do some piano stuff, and he does the singing, and they join in. So he wants to make them rich and famous rock group, and so he goes through that, and he tells them that he's a vampire and that he's the vampire Lestat, and they're like, oh, we know who that is. and they tell him about Interview with the Vampire book, which I don't know if Interview with the Vampire came out before this. I think it did. Um, and so they talk about Lestat in Interview with the Vampire, um, and he goes back and he reads it, and he talks about how it's wrong that the vampires have kind of outed themselves and not told, a little rock band. They did it much worse. They told hundreds of thousands of people about them, and he really gets kind of irritated by that, and he goes and he decides to write his own book about his own adventures and what's going on and what has happened in his life. And it's pretty funny that he's booting up the processor to write his book. And then it flashes back to him when he was a lord, and he goes into the mountains because a pack of wolves have been terrorizing the village, and the villagers have gotten him to go kill the wolves. So he goes into the woods, and he's being chased by the wolves, the hunter becoming the hunted kind of thing. But he slowly and methodically takes care of them, dispatches them. Excuse me. And eventually he gets pinned behind a tree, and he uses his sword and his flail and stuff, and he finally kills all of the wolves. And but the wolves had killed his horse, so he uses his gun to shoot his horse, and he goes back to his manor where his mother and his family are living. But he's transformed, he's changed. I don't know if this is him turning into the vampire, because it doesn't really make any sense, killing a bunch of wolves turning somebody into a vampire. But he's psychologically scarred, I guess. And his mother goes and talks to him about it because he's locked in his room, and he's psychologically messed up because he killed a bunch of wolves. But he says that he wants to go kill the family, and so I guess it's beginning to work its way into being a vampire. And so it ends with him meeting the other character from Interview with the Vampire. And yep, so that just kind of ends with them starting their friendship. The art is kind of hit or miss for me. I like a lot of stuff. Like I like the drawing, and I like the painting. I think the color work is really nice. I do, like I said, I wish that the color had been a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more modern here, kind of to really show the changes between the times. And I really enjoy the dirt work, the earthen work of the him crawling through the earth, and his eye, and the whole panel setup is really good. Like this first 3, 4, 5 pages are very, very nicely drawn, nicely written, and the writing is I don't know how much of it is actually taken directly from the books, but it's everything is very well written. The dialogue is very believable and flows really well. I never got confused. I only got confused a couple times towards the end when he kills the wolves and then comes back and he's a vampire. But I think that's Anne Rice's problem. I don't think that is Faye Peroz's fault. But the art is really nice. It's done, like I said, it's done by two different people. I like when it's more painted like this, and the pencils really aren't prevalent, and you can really see the paint work a lot better than the pencils and inks, which is for the majority, the most part, is it. It's really nicely painted. It's got some really cool things going on for it. And as far as the narrative art is good. It's more than acceptable. It's good, but it's not great. The action, like all painted comics, unless you really put a lot of emphasis in the action and in the flow of the comic, like Bill Sienkiewicz, his painted stuff is just premier comic book painted stuff, and it's just all energy and action, and really it draws you in. And this is a little bit stale. I think stale is too harsh. It's just not as loose as I would like it to be. But the narrative art does everything correctly, in my opinion, and it flows relatively well. You really can't tell the difference between the pencils in the first half of the book and the pencils in the second half of the book. This Derek Gross, he did a great job in blending both of those styles together. This is a little distracting. I believe that this is text from the books, and that is kind of distracting, and I kind of wish that they hadn't done it. Maybe if it had just been black or a solid color, because you've got these nice one-tone images, and it's nicely painted. Excuse me. It's just kind of distracting to me. But yeah, it's a good read. I think towards the end, when it shows the wolves and the forest and stuff, I wish there hadn't been so many panels. This 9-panel grid for each of these pages is good, but I really wish that this had been only like 4, maybe 5 panels, because if you're showing like a what should be like this beautiful background, beautiful woods, beautiful sky, it's just not enough image area to make a difference in how you're feeling about each of these different backgrounds. Like this one right here should have been all of this, in my opinion. This is good. I really like this. The ferocity of the wolves, and this is a nice page layout where it has the 2 action sequences, and then faster action, and then up close action. So I really like that. So all of this is really, really nicely painted. Could have been done better, maybe. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And there's some really nice stuff here. And overall, I think I would give this maybe a 7. I love the cover. That's a 10. The interior pencils are more than adequate. They're good. And the painting is really good. So yeah, I would give this a solid 7. So thanks for watching again. And if you guys like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And I will see you again next time to review the next comic. Thanks for watching. Bye.